morning, everyone. It is almost 4:30 in the morning. We just arrived at the airport in Austin, Texas, and we are about to leave town, heading to San Francisco for GDC 2017.
It's gonna be an exciting time. We'll see you there.
Hello there. It's the last day of GDC San Francisco 2017. We've had an absolutely incredible time. We've met so many people, from students to developers from around the world to backers and supporters of Star Citizen. It was amazing. The booth was great. Partnered with Amazon and Lumberyard, Star Citizen. It was just a full house all 3 days on the show floor, and we couldn't be happier. And so with this, we are done. We are signing out. Lead Community Manager Tyler Whitkin here, and we will see you in the verse.
Months to get the first passive implementation of trade into the game. So Austin design team has been designing the next round of shops that will be available after the upcoming 2.6.2 patch. A few things that are required to make this happen are the initial list of commodities, with goods flowing from their mined or gathered states, then onto the refineries, passing through manufacturers, and ultimately turning into buyable or tradable items. The price of these items will be an important element of gameplay, because players' actions can impact the flow of resources, which will in turn affect supply and demand. In the early stages, we began with a basic commodity structure that represents the major groups: ore, gas, food, medical supplies, and vice, things like drugs or other illegal items. That way, players can get an idea of which resource types will be fought over within the Star Citizen universe. Once the system is proven out with a small subset, commodities will evolve and expand and grow into more specific things like gold, hydrogen, rations, bandages, etc., etc., etc. We want to ensure it's a fun experience by getting the core economic structure in place and testing it out before getting bogged down in the complexity of specifics, which is being worked on by the Frankfurt design team. We figured that all stations have the need for a certain level of resources in order to sustain their existence, and thought that it was a little weird to sell your resources directly to the shops themselves. So we created a new shop type called the admin office, which will most notably focus on buying and selling station imports and exports for the local stores on the stage. This shop would also control local storage rentals and include a job board to complete unplanned deliveries. This shop type will be in the majority of the locations that don't have a fully fleshed out TDD, which is focused more on things like commodity trading. Ultimately, the prices of commodities will vary by supply and demand based on the dynamic economy. Is it to actually find cargo from a derelict station? How fun is it to steal things from other players or from some unsuspecting NPC on a planetary outpost? How much is a reasonable reward when you run across them in these scenarios? What type of profit margins are going to make this compelling? Is it doing both initial ID passes and polish passes for some of the locations you'll see in Squad 42? The team is also going back to some older content like the Raid Tally. Now the team is concentrating on adding primary and secondary detail within geometry and material work. The interior of the Drake Colors Black has also gotten a lot of attention this month in the form of added detail and kit bash pieces from the Caterpillar. The team also completed a first lighting pass for the interior of the Cutlass. The Austin ship animation team has been working with the UK and the LA studio box phase of our mining ship, the Misk Prospector, with the UK team. In Austin, we're working on a new redesigned Drake Cutlass as previously discussed, and we're supporting them as well. And lastly, we're finalizing all the Drake Buccaneer animations. All the ships will be completed, online, and available before you know it. Over that's located in the Idris, with the goal of creating an entire eating experience for a character, and specifically for NPCs. It starts with a character grabbing a tray, navigating to a table seat, then the character sitting down, eating, drinking, and performing any other actions. Finally, the character will stand with the tray in hand and navigate to the character's boat. We then provide these animations to the Frankfurt studio, and they take it over from there. You may have seen a little bit of this in the Frankfurt update from last week's Roundiverse, in both live and the upcoming 2.6.2 patch. We've introduced and continue to enhance multi-region support for matchmaking, and there have been multiple fixes and tweaks to both the party system, contacts, and friends, which includes improvements to invitations and online and offline state notifications. We have directed much of our energy towards the new diffusion architecture group. The player relations team spent the month traveling to their various studios, Foundry 42 in Manchester and Turbulent in Montreal. Much of the trip was spent working with various design teams and states and be used during Avocati and PTU during testing. Player relations was heavily involved in testing, setting up and launching both 2.6.1 and Spectrum. It's fantastic to see players jump right into Spectrum. We've gotten great feedback on how to improve it, and we're very proud that players love Spectrum so much. Last but not least, we've been growing the player relations team in Austin. The team has open positions right now, and they have been interviewing some awesome candidates, all of which are part of the Star Citizen.
Called Spectrum that you guys have seen released last week. And so we've been super busy cataloging your feedback, looking at all the different bugs that you guys have been reporting, the feed council issues that you guys have reported. We've classified the feedback and we've identified a bunch of short-term additions that we're going to be doing, as well as realign a bit the long-term vision of how the platform is going to shape up with your feedback in mind. And that's all because you guys are reporting this directly to us and talking to us about how the platform is being built. There have been 2 of them that have brought some of your feedback in top priority directly on the platform. So what we've added is more readability on the thread list, where we've upped the font size, made secondary information a bit more faded. We've also brought in more of your feedback into how the sort algorithms are working. Our initial launch of the sort algorithms were a bit weird, and so we've readjusted them from the top. Feature parity for the form engine of Spectrum with the previous form engine. And so we're looking at what we're missing, and you guys are telling us what we're missing, which is great, because then we can prioritize this list. And so we're bringing in ways for you to see your own post or see another user's post. We're adding timestamps to the thread list. We're going to the thread list, and of course, secondary thread type. Currently, only classic threads exist, but we want to bring Reddit-style thread to this, where comments can be sorted by upvote score as well. And so that's all coming in the short term on the Spectrum platform. And on the longer horizon, what we're looking at is, of course, voice support. So as we are doing all these features, R&D and work for the voice development is being done. Citizen, that's going to be a big must. And so that's on the longer horizon is, of course, voice and desktop support, which will come with Delta Patcher as well. And so I'm in LA.
It starts with an idea. The answer to a question, really. How can we best defend ourselves?
Very high-level write-up, which discusses the key beats, the manufacturer, what type of weapon it is. From there, we approve that, and then that goes into the actual kickoff meeting, where we run through that concept is being worked on. It is purely about those things.
There's no gameplay logic that ties back to all the other areas. It's a weapon. It's a fairly contained piece of art with effects and animation, and it's complex in itself.
Rifle was kind of the one we chose to be like, this is going to be the new gold standard. We knew right off the bat, we wanted something quite slick. It shouldn't be too fancy, but it's going to be in squadron, so we want it to have some interest. It's going to be a mix of alloy and polymers, and that was kind of our initial direction. Obviously working off an M60.
We tend to compare it to our replicas of guns that we have in the office. We tend to check the buttstock length, the thickness of the gun, the trigger guard, to make sure that a character with a heavy armor can actually fit his fingers into the trigger guard. We check the accessibility of the handguard, if it is not too far away or not too close to the player. Same goes for the mag release and safety. So we check all these, and if needed, we adjust the concept afterwards. We create a blockout, which is a very simplified version of the in-game model, which basically consists just of a few blocks of geometry. This is used mainly for pre-visualizations of.
First is a weapon pre-visualization setup. Second one is with a final render mesh implementation. And third, LODs. We create the Maya rig for the animators, and we provide all sort of controls for its mechanism. Then we hand it over to animators.
We have to animate those parts. The main focus for animation is actually getting the reloads working. The reloads in any first-person game are important to how the weapon feels. And obviously in Star Citizen we've got the combined first-person and third-person animations. So you've got the unique challenge of what you see in first person and third person is the same thing, but in first person you need to have a good read on what's happening. So you've got some restrictions where you have to keep the weapon in the view of the camera. So if you drop that out to reload, then the player's going to...
The finger can go in a neutral rest position and then it's not on the trigger. Branding, materials, doesn't look good from third person, doesn't look good from first person.
Weak is a skeleton and plus its physics. Second one is a skin file which contains its deformation parts, and third one is static geometry which we call as a CGF. Fourth one are a null attachment helpers which works with our weapon customization as well as certain helpers for the VFX. Then we create another internal file which we call character parameters, where we connect the animation database to its respective skeleton, and then animators can go in and start exporting their animation. Final product as a building block pre-visualization weapon looks something like this inside the engine.
First thing we do is we put it onto our animation pulse just to check that everything's good, it's shouldered, the first person view and the third person view are looking right. If the weapon has many moving parts, we'll check that all those are set up correctly. Sometimes they aren't, and then we feed back to tech art, and then it comes back to us again. This is G36, so its hand positions are close in. So this is the pose that we give art to model around. So they'll model this part of the gun so that it fits. But then the left hand, we have to adjust it per weapon. So the PAR, for example, is a longer weapon, so instead of holding it back here, the first thing we'll do is we'll adjust this and we'll get a hand pose that we're happy with. And we get that in engine as early as possible so that we know where the animation's going to have to start from for the reload. So once we're happy with the hand pose, then we can move on to doing the first pass of the reloads. After we've done a few iterations, tested some timing out and stuff, and once we're happy with that, that's when we move on to implement. You'll have different reloads for stand, crouch, cone. So we always try and make sure that the timing's the same at each. So we always concentrate just on this stand, forward, reload. Design guys and arts and any director that needs to review it can start seeing it, you can play with it. Usually the first iteration's relatively rough because you want to get that in quickly so that people can start feeding back on it as early as possible.
Quite often, if you use one gun and set it up as behaving like another one, it feels very different if it hasn't got the right assets on it. So the visual style, sound and animations of the gun can massively impact the feel of how people perceive it to be working. For a small amount of up to 50 rounds, your gun's 45 degrees pointed further away than where you were before.
Which basically means that all the hard edges are beveled, and in the end it makes the gun look way more beautiful because all the hard edges are nice and smooth and round in it. And after that is done and optimizations on the model are done, we do this thing called UVing. UVing is basically opposite of what making a paper model is. So instead of starting off from a 2D sheet of paper and making it into the model, we start with the model and then unfold it nicely into a 2D sheet for texturing. After this, decals and pump decals are applied, which basically add a small stickers or markings on the gun. And the pump decals really enhance the visuals of the weapon by adding a small details that actually bend the light. These are called wear map and a dirt map. These are hand painted or photo sourced to ensure the highest quality. And basically they add dirt and wear However, these can be controlled by code in real time, so we can control the intensity and amount of the dirt and wear dynamically in engine.
That's sort of the main distinction of the weapons now. It's energy or ballistic. So each weapon has we want to do different impact effects per surface. So if you shoot ice, you should be able to see ice fragments coming up. And if you shoot again metal, yeah, we're talking about sparks. And then dust from shooting cloth, water, and how will we deal with the different planets? Like we have brown sand, red sand, black sand.
A perspective to give you a kind of more subjective, a deeper subjective experience of firing that weapon. And then it sounds different again from a third person, so that if you hear your weapon being fired by an enemy down the hall or whatever, it'll be different from, to try and reflect the fact that when you fire a weapon yourself, probably in real life, you don't get to do that much in the UK, thankfully. You'll get that kick that you wouldn't necessarily have the audio for. Layers, and then in those layers are multiple grains, essentially almost granularly synthesis. It's quite deep, it's quite painstaking. It has its own technical challenges. If you were, say, lining all that stuff up in Reaper, then all the transients, the initial pop, you could line them up manually, and that all works fine. If you're trying to randomize these things, so these different layers are working in tandem, almost like an orchestra, you need to try to make sure they all line up as well, otherwise you get this smearing effect. It kind of muddies the water, if you like, the audio where guns are concerned. So trying to work out exactly how you deconstruct and reconstruct stuff is a large part of what we're still doing. We're still trying to improve that process. Get from it will be louder than if, for 2 seconds from that point, you fire it again. So the little dynamic mix systems that work, to try and make it pop through that bit more.
It started with an idea. Now it's yours to fire.
Around the verse.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in the Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.